Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas. Let's talk about what's happening today. Also, what's happening today is after Political Beatdown, Michael Cohen is going to be participating in a town hall with a bunch of special guests, and we'll be bringing that to you live here on the Midas Touch Network as well. That's why it's just going to be me here on Political Beatdown today, but we've got a very exciting show with Cohen and others coming up as well. Let's start with this press conference that was held earlier in the day with Abrego Garcia's wife. Abrego Garcia was kidnapped by the Trump regime. He's a Maryland man, a father of three. He's married to a U.S. citizen. He's been under a protected status order by an immigration judge from 2019 during the first Trump administration. So clearly the first Trump administration didn't think that he was that big of a threat if they were giving him one, protected status, and two, he was doing his usual check-ins with ICE. He has no criminal record. He's been here for a long time. And now the Trump regime kidnapped him, put him in El Salvador. They said it was a mistake. They didn't mean to do it. But now the position of the DOJ and the Trump regime is oopsies. There's nothing we can do. Oh, and by the way, he's MS-13. In fact, he's a terrorist, and we will not be bringing a terrorist back, is what they're saying. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0. Cut the crap Trump regime, bring him back. So Trump lost in front of the Supreme Court because all of this stuff the Trump regime is saying is lies. Now the Trump regime is defying the Supreme Court's 9-0 order. In fact, the Trump regime is pretending they won in front of the Supreme Court when they clearly lost in front of the Supreme Court 9-0. And now there's a proceeding that's taking place before a federal judge in Maryland who initially got this case. That's what the appeal was about, her order saying return Abrego Garcia. That was appealed to the Supreme Court. So now the case goes back to her. The Trump regime has been defying her orders, where she ordered the Trump regime give status updates. What steps are you taking to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia? And the Trump DOJ is like, nothing we can do. Just look at what Nayib Bukele, the authoritarian leader of El Salvador, is saying. He's saying we can't smuggle back a terrorist into the United States. Well, he's not a terrorist, number one. Number two, he's entitled to a process, frankly, that a Trump judge from 2019, not a Biden judge, a Trump judge from 2019, a Trump immigration judge from 2019 put into place. And it's not smuggling if the United States works with Nayib Bukele as part of their so-called partnership, right? That's what they're calling their relationship, a partnership, to get the return of Abrego Garcia. So there's a proceeding taking place live now in the federal district court in Maryland, where Judge Zenas has basically been saying, look, what the Trump regime is saying is false. I want intensive discovery. She hasn't yet made the ruling of contempt, but the judge certainly seems to be heading in the direction pretty soon of contempt. She goes, I'm not listening to hearsay. We're doing this pursuant to the federal rules, and stop mischaracterizing my rulings and what the Supreme Court is saying. You're in my court. The United States federal courts still have due process, despite the fact the Trump regime don't want that to be the case. We're following the rules. Do you understand, DOJ? That's happening right now live as I'm reporting in Maryland. But let me show you earlier today, because what this is about also, it's about human beings, okay? And in the gamification of politics that the corporate news has done, they forget to sometimes talk about we're dealing with humans. We're dealing with fathers. We're dealing with mothers. We're dealing with individuals here whose lives are being torn apart as the Trump regime treats people like trash. As Matt Rain says, Abrego Garcia is married to a U.S. citizen. He's a father of 3 U.S. citizen kids and did not have a single criminal charge on his record since he got here at age 16. He has been working in the United States legally. Let me repeat that. He has been working in the United States legally since 2019, when he was granted protection from deportation when it was determined he would face extreme gang violence if he went back to El Salvador. The Trump administration has admitted in multiple filings they wrongfully deported him. So stop the propaganda, stop the crap. And I think it's important that we lead with that. We lead with the facts here on the Midas Touch Network. Now, this is Abrego Garcia's wife. Here she is pleading now with two authoritarian regimes, one in the United States, the Trump regime, the other in El Salvador with Nayib Bukele. Here, play this clip.
I find myself pleading with the Trump administration and the Bukele administration to stop playing political games with the life of Kilmer. Our family is torn apart during this scary time.
Okay, with that, we bring in Trey Gowdy.
Yeah, then Fox brings in Trey Gowdy, a former MAGA Republican Congress member. He's the one who led those Benghazi hearings against Hillary Clinton. So this is a right-wing propagandist type of guy. But even this whole situation shocks his sensibilities. So he's asked, well, what do you think the Trump regime, well, they call it administration, I call it a regime, should be doing right now? And he's like, I think you should follow the Supreme Court. I mean, I think you should listen to the court orders. This is what they're saying on Fox with a former MAGA Republican Congress member. Here, play this clip.
In America, Trey, it's always great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us today. So what do you think the White House should do in this situation?
I mean, I think what they ought to do is probably follow the judge's order and the Supreme Court decision, which used the word facilitate. Also in that opinion, Martha, were the words accidental, mistake, and illegal. I mean, those are not three good words you want in a Supreme Court decision. So, look, I don't want the guy in the United States. Although I will say this, if the press secretary's facts are right, it should be a pretty easy conviction. And do I have more confidence in U.S. prisons or El Salvadorian prisons? U.S. prisons. I don't know if you remember Pablo Escobar or not in Colombia, but that was more like the sanctuary at Kiowa or the Ritz-Carlton. That's not a real prison. So I have more confidence in U.S. prosecutors. I have more confidence in the U.S. prison system. If the president doesn't agree with that, and he may not, then bring him back and then remove him to another country. Appeal the removal order. But what we can't have is any executive disobeying or not following a judge's decision, even if you disagree with it. Yeah. Appeal it, or else you're going to get fined. I bet this judge is going to start fining the department on a daily basis if he's not brought back here.
Well,
Fining him with what, though? With our taxpayer dollars? I mean, just think about what that means. That's the problem with the Supreme Court's absolute immunity ruling, because normally someone in Trump's position would be fearful that they could personally be criminally prosecuted with kidnapping human beings and putting them in extermination camps in El Salvador. But the Supreme Court, as you all know, gave Donald Trump absolute immunity many, many, many months ago. And now Donald Trump saying, oh, you want to fine me? It's not my money. It's the taxpayer money. So what? You fine the Trump administration from taxpayer dollars, and then it goes back to where? The federal courts? I mean, think about it. What I think needs to happen, though, are that these lawyers who are there, who are suborning perjury, I think there needs to be ramifications with their bar license. Trump may have absolute immunity, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the people in his regime who are following his orders, who are just as complicit as him. I mean, look at Caroline Levitt. Look at the pink dress lady version in the United States. Kim Jong-un has his pink dress lady. Donald Trump has Caroline Levitt, who stands up there as his chief propagandist and lies. And remember, I wanted to start the show by talking about that we're dealing with human beings here, because the Trump regime just acts like treating someone's life like trash. A father of 3 married to a U.S. citizen, here since 16, didn't commit a single crime, here lawfully since 2019. Who was the president in 2019? You want to blame it on Biden? You want to blame it on Biden? Who was in charge in 2019? So I'm trying to understand this. The worst MS-13 gang leader imaginable that the first Trump administration, an immigration judge said you could be working. And so this MS-13 member just would show up to work, would check in with ICE regularly, fill out all of the paperwork. That sounds like something a hardened MS-13 gang member would do. But by the way, exactly what was said, if this individual was indeed an MS-13 gang member, if this person is that, then as Trey Gowdy says, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Trey Gowdy, then go through a process. It's called due process. Show your facts and show your evidence, not just trust me, bro. And then there could be assessments that are made. And if the determination is that there should be a deportation that takes place because he's not a citizen, and you go through the process, there could be appeals. That is our system here. Now, you may not like our system, but our system is one that for a long time was viewed as a beacon for the rest of the world. Sure, is our system slow? Yeah. Does our system always get it right? No. But we have a system that's built on due process and constitutional norms. And we've decided here in this country since the beginning of our nation's founding that we are a nation of laws and not a nation of kings. That's the equation. But Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans in the House and the Senate have said, no, no, no. This is a nation of kings. We are not in a constitutional crisis. Let me repeat that. We are not in a constitutional crisis. Oh, that's past. We're beyond constitutional crisis at this point, okay? Constitutional crisis means that there's some tension. What's going to happen? Are we going to have a constitution or not? We're past that. We in the United States have a reckless, kleptocratic, authoritarian regime. So there's the authoritarian regime, and there's those who oppose it and those who resist. Our authoritarian regime resembles, frankly, a weirder version of North Korea. It's kind of Kim Jong-un meets The Apprentice. And I've shared with you those cabinet meetings that are held that look like bad episodes of The Apprentice. I've said before, I think the cast of any season of The Apprentice would do better than the current Trump cabinet. And it's exactly when you watch it, what it looks like. It looks like a weird episode of The Apprentice, like the bad season that was so bad that it didn't even make the air because the NBC executives were like, yo, this is some weird shit. Like, we're not going with this. Like, this is some real strange stuff right here. That's what we've got. You've got cosplay, Christy Nome playing dress up and holding guns the wrong way and pretending she's doing missions. You've got RFK Jr. bringing in anti-vax weirdos and talking about the strangest and most dangerous things. You've got Elon Musk, blah, 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 Elon Musk, blah, 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 150, blah, blah, blah. You've got freaking Elon Musk randomly. It's like someone joining the cast who's not even a cast member. Like, who's this guy? Why is this guy even here? Who you got? Pete Hegseth. Okay, Donald, we're gonna go after Greenland, Donald. We're going to go after Panama. I'm going to bring ships to Panama because we're strong. We're going to be lethal, Donald. We're going to be as lethal as we can be. I mean, it's a bunch of freaking idiots. Then you've got Pam Bondi, who just spends her time basically being a Fox host instead of the attorney general. It's a weird crew, a dangerously weird, strange crew. The transportation secretary, the guy from the Real World Road Rules Challenge, that's how he got famous. So yeah, in China right now, they are mocking the hell out of the United States. I saw a video on TikTok where what they're saying is, oh, we call Donald Trump in China the great builder, the great one, because he's making China great. That's what they're saying in all of the China videos right now on social media. Yes, he was the greatest builder of all times. He's now allowed China to make alliances with Europe and Canada and Australia. Greenland and China are speaking right now. So China's like, please keep on building, Donald. Show the world what a great builder you are. I get those. I get those videos all the time. All right, I digress. A little bit of a tangent right there. Okay, Caroline Levitt. That's where we were going. Caroline Levitt from the White House. She is asked about returning Abrego Garcia. Let's watch this. Here, play this clip.
Still going off the El Salvador questions. Yesterday in the Oval Office, administration officials made it very clear that El Salvador is responsible for Mr. Abrego Garcia, yet El Salvador's president said we're not going to do anything with him. So my question is, who is responsible for this man and where he's going to end up?
Well, no. First of all, President Bukele said that he is not going to smuggle a foreign terrorist back into the United States of America, as many in this room in the Democrat Party seemingly want him to do. Abrego Garcia was a foreign terrorist. He is an MS-13 gang member. He was engaged in human trafficking. He illegally came into our country. And so deporting him back to El Salvador was always going to be the end result. There is never going to be a world in which this is an individual who's going to live a peaceful life in Maryland, because he is a foreign terrorist and a MS-13 gang member. Not only have we confirmed that, President Bukele yesterday in the Oval Office confirmed that as well. So he went back to his home country, where he will face consequences for his gang affiliation and his engagement in human trafficking. I'm not sure what is so difficult about this for everyone in the media to understand. And it's appalling, truly appalling, that there has been so much time covering this alleged human trafficker and this gang member, MS-13 gang member. It's truly striking to me. Karen.
Is it alleged? Because if it's alleged, then there could be a hearing and you can show it. You want to do the case, Caroline Levitt? Why don't you go and show? Why don't you show all the evidence? Why don't you go in front of an immigration judge and you can say, the authoritarian leader of a poor Latin American country, who the leader of the United States regime, the Trump regime, glazes the hell out of this authoritarian leader from El Salvador, and looks up to him, even though their entire GDP is only $34 billion. Their poverty rate's like 25%. 10% of the people in El Salvador live in extreme poverty. It has the highest incarceration rate per capita anywhere in the world, which is, I guess, why Trump likes this poor Latin American country better than, say, the people who should be our allies, like in Canada or Europe or Australia or elsewhere. So why don't you use that as evidence? Say, Bukele said, Bukele, the authoritarian leader, Bukele said. Maybe there's a reason, Caroline Levitt, why an immigration judge in 2019, remember, Caroline, that's when Donald Trump was in office, said you do not send him to El Salvador. And why people are outraged? Well, your own regime, the Trump regime, said this was a mistake. We should not have sent him there. So if it's a mistake, if there's an error, if this is admitted, here's what you do. Here's what you do. Return him. Then give him a hearing. You could put forward your evidence. That's the way our system works. That's the way our system works. Here's Caroline Levitt again. She's asked about Chinese officials are posting videos mocking Trump and J.D. Vance and Elon Musk working in factories, putting together Nike shoes and iPhones. Did you see those? Here, play this clip.
China, this last week, Chinese officials were posting videos on, social media sites depicting Trump, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk in AI-generated videos working in factories, putting together Nike shoes and iPhones and products like that. Does the White House, have they seen these videos? Do you guys have a response to that?
I have seen the videos. I'm not sure who made the videos or if we can verify the authenticity, but whoever made it clearly does not see the potential of the American worker, the American workforce. The president believes in the American people, and he knows that we have the best, not only consumer base in the world, but also the best workforce in the world, and that's why he's so focused on bringing investments home and shoring up our critical supply chains and bolstering our manufacturing here as well. Brett.
Okay, so let me do this. I can show you a lot of data points, but why don't I show you what they're saying on Fox, Caroline Levitt? Because you seem to listen to them. They're basically state regime media. This is what they said on Fox Business. about the execution of Trump's tariffs, what CEOs and business owners are currently talking about. So why don't I go into your own home territory, right? And I'll show you what they're saying on Fox today about how great this is all going, Caroline, how great it's all going, okay? Here's what they're saying on Fox right now. Let's play it.
But to your point, Americans back the concept of a more level, fair trading field, but the execution of this, and I wanted to ask Daniel about this, the execution has been a morass. It's been an absolute chaotic mess so far, and the American people really haven't felt the pain of that yet. And is the pain based on talking to CEOs of companies that need these imports? Is the pain layoffs? Because that's what I'm hearing, that people are putting together layoff plans.
Absolutely. I see it. I hear about it. And even as a CEO of a company, we're thinking about it. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen because the game keeps changing, and it's changing in real time. But let me give
the one thing I'll correct there, Americans are feeling the pain right now. Mortgage rates are 7.5% right now, right? Wasn't Donald Trump's promise? I'm going to make housing so affordable on day one. Everyone's going to have a house. That's one of the things that he ran on. Or what about prices are going to be so low on day one? It's going to be incredible. Well, that's not the case either. I think for Easter, people have to like paint potatoes right now because eggs are so expensive if you can even afford that. Things are very, very difficult and challenging right now on American families. Trump and Musk have gutted the federal workforce. Essential services have been cut. People don't know if Social Security is going to be here or not, if Medicaid's going to be here or not. We're being gaslit by MAGA Republicans. Oh, we're not going to be cutting those things. But then it literally says in the legislation that they're cutting those things. We already know all these Social Security administrative offices have been shut down. Veterans have had their lives destroyed by the Trump regime. The VA, tens of thousands of cuts right there. Department of Education being cut and gutted. Hostile takeover of the federal government. The chaos that Trump brings each and every day. People see their 401ks and their pensions and their life savings. The way I describe what's happening is kind of like a tsunami, though, in the sense that the shore recedes before you actually see the waves of the tsunami. Well, we've already been hit by a tsunami. We've already been hit by one right now. Plus, there's more coming. And that's at least where I agree with that host of Fox right now. So we're going to take there's Cohen from the car.
There I am. Ben, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good. Cohen, tell us what's coming up next. I know.
So what's coming up, and you'll be able to, I believe, see it on Midas Touch Network on their YouTube channel or some other form. One of the beautiful things about technology, we're doing the No Fear Tour. This is the first. There's a great line. So I could bring all the Meiselas brothers in with us. But we have Harry Dunn, we have Don Lemon, Tara Setmayer, Olivia Troy, and we have Matt Friend, all coming to this off-Broadway theater, which unbelievable turnout. Tickets were sold out within the first 24 hours, and the rest will be live streamed. So, I appreciate you picking up the slack for me. You know that it's a rarity that I'm not available, but this is one of those things. I couldn't get the theater for any other date, but we're in a real crisis right now, and I love how you're explaining it, Ben, because if we don't step up, and I mean every single person, if we don't step up as a community and ensure that the conversation continues and that the rights that we're losing on a daily basis are not stopped, I don't even know what this place is going to look like in 3 months, 6 months, or a year from now.
Well, it's great seeing you, Cohen. We're excited to share and live stream what you're doing with you and Jim Acosta and others. We're excited for that. That'll be here on the Midas Touch Network as well. You know, this is the home base for the coverage of the resistance, the protests, the shadow hearings, the speeches by Bernie Sanders and AOC and others, the town halls. You know, corporate news made it clear that they would not be covering this stuff. They were an integral part of the Trump regime plan. But, you know, we made sure with the Midas Mighty, with the Beatdown Brigaders, that we would build our own network where the resistance, where the opposition would live. So that's what we're doing. We got to take a quick break. Cohen, great seeing you. Excited to stream your live event today. We'll be right back after our first quick break of the show.
So I've tried a lot of ways to relax. I've tried meditation, therapy, the occasional rage tweet, but nothing, and I mean nothing, has helped me unwind quite like Via. It's actually a game changer. You see, I've struggled with my sleep for years, tossing, turning, overthinking, replaying mistakes I've made in my head at 2 a.m. But ever since I started taking Via's Dreams gummies, I sleep like a baby. And I'm talking about a baby who didn't work for Trump. And it's not just sleep. Via has something for everything. So whether you need to relax, to focus, to recharge, or just stop giving a damn for a few hours, they've got you covered. These are hemp-derived, lab-tested, organic products crafted right here in the United States of America from independent, American-owned farms. I mean, this isn't some gas station mystery snack. It's clean, it's safe, and yeah, it actually works. With over 500,000 people already on the Via train, and with their award-winning, effect-forward lineup from zero to high THC, you can dial in the exact vibe that you want. So take their product finder quiz and find what fits you. And after you do, you can thank me later. So if you're 21 plus, check out the link to Via in our description and treat yourself to Via's annual Spring 420 sale. I mean, these are like Black Friday level savings with up to 35% site-wide right now, up to 50% off packs and bundles, and get a free gift. Plus more savings with your first order using our exclusive code BEAT. That's B-E-A-T. Plus, you'll also enjoy free shipping on orders of over $100. That's code BEAT, B-E-A-T, at the link in our description. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. So please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Enhance your everyday with Via. You ever look in the mirror after a week of political insanity and think to yourself, wow, I look like I just did a 3-year bid at Otisville with no moisturizer. Yeah, well, me too. Long work weeks, chaotic weekends, and stress that ages you faster than a Trump deposition. That's why I tried Prolon. And let me tell you, it's the real deal. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet, it's like hitting the reset button without actually starving yourself like you're trying to sneak past the feds. I mean, it's all plant-based, soups, snacks, teas, all of it scientifically designed to nourish you while your body thinks it's fasting. Basically, it tricks your cells into rejuvenating like they just got a subpoena and need to clean up their act and fast. And now, boom, they've dropped the next-gen version. Same science-backed magic, but cleaner, tastier, 100% organic, and ready to eat. Because who has time to fast like it's 1999? I mean, I did the original program, felt like a new man. Now, I'm all in on next gen because this isn't just about looking good on camera. It's about feeling good off camera too. Look, this stuff is no gimmick. It was developed at USC's Longevity Institute, and it's backed by top U.S. medical centers. I mean, we're talking biological age reduction, better skin, more energy, fat loss, metabolic health. Basically, it's like turning back the clock without even having to sell your soul. So here's the deal. For a limited time, Prolon is offering Political Beatdown listeners, get a load of this, 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just head to prolonlife.com/beat. That's PROLONLIFE.com/beat. And give yourselves a little beatdown of their own in the best possible way.
Gotta love Michael Cohen bringing in federal penitentiary into the ad reads in one. You don't get that anywhere else other than Political Beatdown and from Michael Cohen. Thank you to all of our pro-democracy sponsors. Shows like this can't function without them. The discount codes are in the description below. So the federal judge in the Abrego Garcia federal court hearing just said the following as the hearing wrapped up. Judge Zenas said, cancel vacations, cancel other appointments, looking at the Trump DOJ. I'm usually pretty good about that, not this time. I will be flexible if you need to accommodate depositions inside this courthouse. I'm going to be available if you need to do it at odd hours or weekends. That's what I'm talking about. She said she's not giving an inch here. She's ordered expedited, aggressive discovery into everything relating to Abrego Garcia. She did not reach the issue of contempt yet. She clearly signaled she seems to be going there. She wants to build a bulletproof record because she knows this is going to go before the Supreme Court again. She wants to know every step the government's taken every day. She's going to note all of their non-compliance. And so she's setting up a hell of a record right here. Just to kind of give you the recap of just what went down in this hearing that wrapped up during that last commercial break. So Abrego Garcia's lawyers, they show up, they go, Judge, there's no evidence that the Trump regime has done anything to comply with the order to facilitate his return from El Salvador. We want depositions. We want interrogatories. And Judge, we want documents. We want to know what the hell they are doing. Judge Zenas says every day Abrego Garcia is in that prison in El Salvador is a day of further irreparable harm. If not this federal court, counsel, then who to engage in process? It's process that is in the roots of our Constitution. So we have to give process to both sides. But we're going to move. There will be no tolerance for gamesmanship or grandstanding. Do you understand? She said, looking at the Trump DOJ. Judge Zenas then says that Nayib Bukele, the leader of El Salvador's comments in the Oval Office, were not a non-responsive answer to her question. If that were in a court of law, it would have real infirmities in a trial, in a court of law. It's not a direct response, nor is the quip about smuggling someone into the United States. Because this is what I said before, if the government were facilitating his return, then it clearly would not be smuggling now, would it? Judge Zenas then says, buckle up. 2 weeks of intensive discovery will be taking place. We're going to do this by the federal rules of civil procedure, she says. No press release is going to move the court the same way that sworn, under oath testimony from persons with knowledge have. If you have objections, make them pursuant to the rules of federal civil procedure. Judge Zenas says the administration's definition of facilitate flies in the face of the plain meaning of the word facilitate. Quote, when a wrongfully removed individual is outside U.S. borders, it's not so cut and dry that all you have to do is remove obstacles domestically. Judge Zenas says she begins with what SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, unequivocally found to be lawful. To the DOJ, she says, you made your jurisdictional arguments. You made your venue arguments. You made your arguments on the merits. You lost. You are losers. This is now about the scope of the remedy. You lost. Let me be clear. Let me repeat it again, Trump. You lost. Judge Zenas says it's premature to talk about a judge's powers to request Abrego Garcia's return from El Salvador. It's not something she's ordering, and she's very willing to be persuaded that she doesn't have the power. But she goes on to say, if the plaintiffs want, I want depositions. I want to know what's going on. I want to know every single step that they've taken to facilitate. What actions are they taking to bring him back? Cancel your vacations and report back to me what you are doing to bring him back. All of the steps. That's what went down in federal court. I expect this is heading to contempt proceedings soon. And I think what she realizes as well is she needs to build the record. And what she's going to want to show, and the plaintiff's lawyers are top-notch lawyers in this case, they're going to show that the Trump regime has been at all stages violating the court order. Then I think we get into what the remedy is. Now, I still think it's a travesty, again, that every day that passes, every single day that passes is a day where Abrego Garcia is wrongfully being held in an extermination camp in El Salvador, when a judge in 2019, a judge during the Trump administration, says that was not supposed to happen. So we'll be following this every step of the way. We should talk about this as well. This is a headline from the New York Post today. So right-leaning New York Post headline right now saying, Mr. Trump, save my business. Small companies plead for relief from the crushing tariff costs. People are feeling the pain right now. Right now. Small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and I guess the billionaires, they can all try to request their exemptions. Hey, can you exempt this? Can you exempt that? Well, if you give Donald Trump enough money, maybe he'll consider an exemption here. The volatility this has caused, there's a reason why the bond markets in the United States are very shaky right now, why the 10 and 20-year Treasury yield bonds are going so high, because the United States is no longer viewed as it once was, a safe haven for the world to put its money. For all of Donald Trump and his regime saying, everyone's taking advantage of us, everybody's screwing us, I feel so screwed over. No, Donald, you're just a shitty business person who bankrupted things over and over again because you're an idiot. You're a vile piece of trash. You're a sexual predator. You are a felon. You don't know how to run things. That is why you feel that way, because people are disgusted by you, by your aura, by your existence. You are, let me repeat, we don't mince words on this network when we say he is a vile piece of trash. I don't respect him. I don't care. I think what he is doing every day right now is showing you why he's bankrupted things over and over and over again. And shame on the CEOs and the Wall Street people who go, maybe it's going to be good this time. Maybe this time it's going to help me get really rich. Really? Really? Well, now more than 60% of CEOs expect a recession in the next 6 months as tariff turmoil grows. By the way, these are the same people who predicted 100% chance, though, of recession for former President Biden and 0% recession under Donald Trump. Remember the headlines when the Trump regime came into power? 0% chance of recession. They said zero, but really 0%. How utterly ridiculous. Well, now Goldman Sachs expects zero economic growth for 2025. The Atlanta Federal Reserve expects somewhere between a -2 and -3% GDP, a GDP contraction. Had Donald Trump literally just did nothing, go to his UFC fights, golf, not do anything, just put former President Biden's economy on auto drive, done nothing at all, we probably would have had 3 to 4% GDP growth. He could have taken credit. Look how smart I am. Look how smart I am. But he is a malignant narcissist, and that is how malignant narcissists behave. He is an abuser. That is how abusers behave. Take a look at this as well. This is a headline from Rich Lowry. Rich Lowry was one of these like National Review, right-wing, quote-unquote, conservative writers who crush Biden. Biden's the worst. Biden's destroying the economy. Trump's character is great. This guy wrote like a whole article, I think, for the Times about Trump should run on his character, this guy, Richard Lowry. Here's the headline now from Richard Lowry from yesterday. Trump will destroy a world economy that has us at the apex and only getting stronger. Well, isn't that an admission, Lowry, that if we were at the apex and only getting stronger, the person who you vilified, Joe Biden, didn't he have the United States at the apex? Or was the apex not good enough for you? Was the apex just, you thought he was at the apex, but we had to get double the apex. I'm going to make the apex even better. I'm going to make the apex great again. I mean, it's so utterly stupid. Take a look at this. really bleak outlook in the New York Manufacturing Survey for April. The 6-month business outlook fell to, get this, negative 7.4. Let me repeat that, negative 7.4, down 44 points over the past 3 months. The weakest manufacturing outlook since 2001, the second lowest in the survey's entire history. Before, under former President Biden, I would be reporting on a record-breaking stock market, the lowest unemployment in history, record job growth. Those were good things in history where we were number one. America's leading the world in GDP, number one, energy independent, most oil drilled and produced, and we cared about climate change. But then I had to hear all the corporate news. Is Joe Biden old? Is Joe Biden an old? He's 80. He's old. Is Joe Biden cognitive? I interviewed Biden for 30 minutes. I've been around Biden multiple times. Biden, newsflash, is in his 80s. He's old. He's competent. He knew what he was doing. He surrounded himself with the best team who were actually leading, and our economy was doing good. Instead, we had corporate news buy into the rage algorithms of Fox and these right-wing idiot podcasters and all these morons. That's what we saw happen over and over again. I want to talk about that and more. My producer's saying we got to take our last quick break of the show. We had 2 ad breaks today. Patreon.com/political beatdown. Let's take a quick ad break. We'll be right back. I'll show you some other clips. We'll talk shop, talk about what we can do. We'll talk about Fight the Oligarchy tour. Let's take a quick break.
You all know that I don't even have a cat. That's right. No fur balls, no litter box drama, no tiny dictator knocking stuff off my shelves at 3 a.m. But I do have a neighbor. Her name's Carla, and her cat Marlo is basically her roommate / therapist / spoiled house gremlin. So when a box of Smalls showed up as part of this sponsorship, I passed it along to Carla for Marlo. I figured, hey, free food for the feline. I mean, what I didn't expect? Carla calls me the next day and she says, Michael, I tasted it. I said, what? Wait, excuse me, what? And then she says, it tastes like chicken salad from the deli. Like that was supposed to reassure me? Look, I've never eaten chicken in my entire life, and that information didn't exactly push me to start. But if a grown woman is out here voluntarily sampling her cat's food and liking it, that says something, my friends, all right? It says a lot of things. But this podcast, which you know, is sponsored by Smalls. It's a protein-packed, preservative-free cat food that's made with real ingredients that you'd find in the fridge. And clearly, in Carla's fridge, too. Smalls was even named the best overall cat food by Cats.com, and apparently, best unexpected snack by Carla. And Marlo loves it. Less puking, shinier fur, and according to Carla, a lot less drama in the litter box. I mean, we love a low-maintenance diva. Still not a believer? Well, how about this? New York Magazine called Smalls, and I quote, the best cat food according to veterinarians. And BuzzFeed said, and I quote, my cats went completely ballistic for this stuff. Marlo, same thing. So what are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve. And for a limited time only, because you're a Political Beatdown listener, you can get 35% off Smalls plus an additional 50% off your first order using the promo code BEAT. That's B-E-A-T. So that's smalls.com, SMALLS.com, promo code BEAT. Get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. I mean, if it's good enough for Marlo and Carla's taste buds, you really can't go wrong. Go there now.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Harvard University standing up to the Trump regime. I like that. I don't always agree with Harvard and everything, but, you know, standing up against the Trump regime. They're represented by 2 big law firms that are also standing up to the Trump regime, Quinn Emanuel and King and Spalding. Notably, you take a look at some of these lawyers. You've got Robert Hur, who was in the first Trump administration, United States Attorney, the name may sound familiar. He was the guy who was investigating Biden's handling of classified documents. The top Republican lawyer in Robert Hur, worked for the first Trump administration. William Burke, top position in the George W. Bush administration, big Republican lawyer as well. He works for a firm called Quinn Emanuel. So with the Trump regime, this is what they were demanding. They're sending letters out to all these universities and particularly targeting Ivy League schools and quote unquote top schools. So MIT, Harvard, others. And they send this letter that's not really like a letter. It's like a contract. And they say, you have to sign this contract or else we're going to take away your federal funding. I mean, if you look at the letters that are sent, and it has all of these government agencies on top that would potentially have regulatory power over federal funds to universities, even private universities. So the letter's framed as a contract, and it says, if acceptable to Harvard, this document will constitute an agreement in principle, which the parties will work in good faith to translate into a more thorough, binding settlement agreement. As you will see, this letter incorporates and supersedes the terms of a prior letter. So settling what? Like, what are you settling? Like, what the hell is this? You're entering a settlement? They do the same thing with law firms. These shakedowns, these extortive efforts against law firms. Pay us 80 million, 100 million, or else we're going to blacklist you from dealing with anything federal government wise. We're going to remove your ability to look at classified information, and we will kind of taint your name in amongst your clients unless you give us $80 million or $120 million in the form of free pro bono services because the Trump DOJ is too incompetent to do their own legal work. When you look at the types of things that the Trump regime was asking Harvard to do, the Trump regime wanted to basically control the admissions process. They wanted to have Harvard get rid of anything to do with diversity. And the Trump regime wanted to do an audit of the political views of faculty and students. I mean, it's like literally right out of like Mao, like the government central planning wanting control to audit the political views of private universities or any universities at all. So Harvard responded in this letter, and they said in their letter, the demands extend not only to Harvard, but separately incorporate independent operated medical and research hospitals engaging in life-saving work on behalf of their patients. The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. Neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government. Accordingly, Harvard will not accept the government's terms as an agreement in principle. You put all of this together, folks, right? What Trump's doing in El Salvador with extermination camps, Donald Trump asserting war powers to hit all of these countries with tariffs, and then he goes, they're kissing my ass for exemptions. They're kissing my ass for exemptions. Trying to take over universities and audit political views of students and faculty, eliminate any teaching about diversity or anything about diversity at all. I mean, you come to the conclusion pretty quickly, as I said at the outset, we're not in a constitutional crisis. That's past. We're in an authoritarian regime, right? So, and a failed state too, right? You think about, who does Trump hate? Who does Trump attack? He attacked Canada today again. Canada, Europe, Australia, our allies, Mexico, our allies. He's most forceful though with Canada and Europe and Australia, right? And the UK. So who does the Trump regime though look up to? Viktor Orban, Hungary, failed state. Look at Poland, democracy, thriving, growth. Hungary, poor, failed, Viktor Orban. Trump loves El Salvador. Entire GDP, 34 billion, 25% poverty rate, 10% live in extreme poverty. Russia, they ain't doing well in Russia. I know Donald Trump and Steve Witkoff, who went to Russia and put his hand over his heart and like pledged allegiance to Putin, it looked like, in Russia 2 days before Russia launched ballistic missile attacks in the city of Sumy in Ukraine, killing, what the last count was 34 innocent Ukrainians, including 2 children, injuring 117 others. By the way, Zelensky's agreed to an unconditional ceasefire. He said yes. Putin, on the other hand, said, no, I want to keep attacking innocent Ukrainians, and I'm going to do it in the most atrocious ways. On Palm Sunday, I'm going to shoot ballistic missiles at churches. Okay. And who does Donald Trump blame? Zelensky, right? Trump's been posting over and over again and making statements that Zelensky is to blame, that this is all Zelensky's fault. Zelensky started it. He says Zelensky is incompetent and Biden, and that they're to blame. He doesn't blame Putin. He blames Zelensky. Then Donald Trump makes posts like this. The best definition of intelligence is the ability to predict the future. Just the ranting and ravings of a madman. And I assume what he means by that is that when he manipulates the markets, he's able to know the future because he's manipulating it. That's why we see Marjorie Taylor Greene and all these MAGA Republicans cashing in, making big bucks, making huge money off of their stock trades while Americans suffer. MAGA Republicans becoming day traders. It's when you know if he's going to say something that causes the markets to go up and then retract, go up, retract. You know, it ain't all that hard to do if you engage in insider trading. That needs to be investigated for sure. Donald Trump posting attacks on 60 Minutes. Almost every week, 60 Minutes, which is being sued for billions of dollars for the fraud they committed in the 2024 presidential election with their interview. A failed presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, mentions the name Trump in a derogatory and defamatory way. But this weekend's broadcast tops them all. They did 2 major stories on Trump. One having to do with Ukraine, which I say is a war that never would have happened had the 2020 election not been rigged. The other, if I were president, the other story was having to do with Greenland. I mean, these are ridiculous messages. As I always say, bring it back to the basics here. If you had someone in your organization who, small company, medium-sized company, big company, who behaved this way, who wrote messages like this, like you would think they're certifiable. You would not work for an organization like this. Only in the Republican Party, only in the United States of America could someone like that be its leader and freaking run the United States of America and run the country into the ground. I mean, literally, you can't have a situation of anybody running it worse. Literally doing nothing would have been far superior by far to all of the chaos, all of the issues that Donald Trump is creating each and every day right here. Do we have this clip, Jeremy? Yeah, I think we do. I just want to show it people. This is Trump with Bukele, where Trump blames Ukraine, where a reporter says, you mentioned last night that Russia's attack on Ukraine was a mistake. What's the mistake? Being Russia sent 2 ballistic missiles into the city of Sumy and killed 35. That seems pretty intentional. So you're calling that a mistake? What do you mean by that, Donald? Here, play this clip.
No, let's not start
Mr.
with
President.
CNN because they're just so
Mr. President.
wrong. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. You repeatedly mentioned last night that Russia's attack on Ukraine was a mistake. What is the exact mistake? And had you given Putin a deadline to actually move toward a ceasefire?
The mistake was letting the war happen. If Biden were competent and if Zelensky were competent, and I don't know that he is. We had a rough session with this guy over here. He just kept asking for more and more. That war should have never been allowed to happen. That war, I went 4 years and Putin wouldn't even bring it up. And as soon as the election was rigged and I wasn't here, that war started. There was no way that war should have been allowed to happen. And Biden should have stopped it. And you take a look at Putin. I'm not saying anybody's an angel. But I will tell you, I went 4 years and it wasn't even a question. He would never, and I told him, don't do it. You're not going to do it. And it was the apple of his eye, but there was
right? I mean, Trump promised that he was going to bring peace. His promise, his campaign promise was peace in Ukraine in 24 hours, lower prices on day one, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. Housing would be more affordable on day one. There would be so many jobs. We wouldn't know what to do with all of the jobs that are out there. Those were his promises. All lies. And again, you see him right there. By the way, I mean, the Oval Office looks so tacky, all of the stupid gold all around him. He's got another dictator sitting by his side. I mean, it is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. So that leads me to, well, what are we doing about it? What are people doing about it? We're calling it out very specifically. We're obviously not mincing words here on the Midas Touch Network, but we're covering the protests here. We're covering all of the protests, right? We are making sure we get the feeds of them across the country. We are broadcasting the shadow hearings by the Democrats. I think that's an important thing because Republicans refuse to hold hearings on the issues that I think matter the most. They're not holding hearings on anything. I saw something that at this time in the presidency, Donald Trump has signed less bills into law than anybody because they're not doing laws. Okay, they're in the dictator game, not the law game. And we're also covering here the Bernie Sanders AOC events and other town halls where there are people fighting for the people. We're going to cover those things. So we've covered a lot of the town halls as well, and we've streamed those live. But just take a look at what went down last night in Idaho, in Nampa, right? So over the weekend, AOC and Bernie Sanders were in LA, then Bernie Sanders was in Coachella. Then on Sunday, they were in Salt Lake City. They filled up a stadium, 20,000 people. It's 10% of the entire population of Salt Lake City. Then on Monday, they were in Idaho, a huge crowd in Idaho. Here's AOC saying, "Why are we in Idaho? Let me tell you why we're in Idaho." Here, play this clip of her.
It's funny. I was hearing that earlier today on the television. There was someone saying, why is AOC, why are AOC Bernie going to Idaho? And I'll give you one simple answer. It's because you matter.
And here she is, not mincing words, telling Donald Trump, "Look in the mirror, Donald. Look in the mirror." Here, play it.
Donald Trump is a criminal who was found guilty of 34 felony counts of fraud, liable for sexual abuse. Of course he's lying and abusing and manipulating the stock market too. When he talks about rapists and criminals, he should look in the mirror.
And now Bernie Sanders and AOC brought their tour to Bakersfield today, which has a special place in my heart. They filled up the full arena, 4,400 people, including 500 in the outside overflow area in Bakersfield. They were in a district of a MAGA Republican Congress member. Very flippable congressional district there in Bakersfield. And I began my career as a lawyer in Bakersfield. I don't know if you all know that about me, but I was a civil rights lawyer in Bakersfield. And in about 12 years ago, I got a phone call from somebody, Jorge Ramirez Sr., who told me that his son was shot and killed outside of a hotel by police officers. And the official line by the Bakersfield Police Department was that his son went and was shooting at the cops, and then that's why the cops shot and killed him, because he was the aggressor. And Jorge Sr. told me, again, 12 years ago or so, "I know my son would never do that." He goes, "My son wasn't perfect, but I know my son would never shoot at cops or do anything like that." So as a third-year lawyer, I began doing an investigation for the Ramirez family. And then we found it's actually Jorge Ramirez's girlfriend had one of these apps it was like a spyware app where she thought that he was cheating on her with somebody, and she can read the text messages. So we actually were able to see the messages he was sending at the time of the shooting. And from the messages that we got, he was actually communicating with the Bakersfield Police Department at that time. It turned out that Jorge Ramirez was a confidential informant working in the Bakersfield Police Department, but they were keeping him off the books. And they were keeping him off the books because there were some bad cops who were working in the Bakersfield Police Department who were actually working classified or working confidential informants, rather, and then trying to use them to sell drugs into the community itself. And they would try to get these confidential informants to give him information to try to find the drugs and then sell the drugs. So they killed their own informant. And I represented the Ramirez case. We uncovered all of that. And then I ended up representing all of these other families in Bakersfield. It's how I got my real kind of break as a lawyer in this crazy situation. The cops were prosecuted. You're probably saying, what happened to the cops? They were prosecuted, but the federal judge had a background in law enforcement. So even though the mandatory minimum for those cops was 15 years for the quantity of drugs they were selling into the community, they only served 5. It was a 5-year sentence, and they got out after, I think, 2.5 and 3 years. Jorge Ramirez obviously lost his life in the shooting. It was a wrongful death case that we brought against the city. And then I ended up representing all of these other families, probably close to 10 families. And at the time I was representing them, 2013, 2014, 2015, Bakersfield had the highest police shooting deaths per capita anywhere in the United States. In California, which people go, really, inside California, you would have all these police shootings that were happening? Yeah, the highest police shooting deaths per capita. And when I represented families, I wasn't even asking them, are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? Are you an independent? I was a lawyer. I wasn't a political person. But through that journey, I knew these families wanted answers. They want, how could this happen? And there were other cases that happened where there was the Kern County sheriffs had one of the canines they unleashed a canine at an individual and whose family I represented, and the canine kind of bit through the leg, and it created a pulmonary embolism, and the person died. And then on the official autopsy, it said that the person died of, or the victim died of drug abuse or drug use or meth. And they try to act like it was a drug death. And we uncover, no, it was the dog bite that caused the pulmonary embolism when you unleash the dog and you had the dog do that. So those are a lot of the cases that I did through my work in Bakersfield. I met Colin Kaepernick, and then I represented Kaepernick, and then I created this media network thereafter with my brothers. But so when I know, I guess the point of this long-winded story is I know Bakersfield very well. I know it to be an area of right. That I think Bakersfield, Kern County voted like 60%, 59% Trump. They voted against Schiff there. They voted for the Republican guy over Schiff, like 60-30 or something crazy like that. So the fact that she's drawing crowds in Bakersfield, but I'll tell you from my experience in Bakersfield, I'm sure I represented clients who voted Trump, and I'm sure I represented clients who voted Clinton or whoever, or Obama, during those years. They wanted answers, though. They wanted people who could fight for them. They wanted fighters. That's what they were looking for. And I think and Trump's a con artist pretending to be a fighter. So I think people need to present themselves and listen and fight for the people. And so it's great when I see Senator Sanders and Congresswoman AOC in a place like Bakersfield. And I also wanted you to know about, that specific connection that the area has with me as well. And how I even got into this was on the streets of Bakersfield was my career, representing families. And I basically lived out of the Marriott on Truxton Avenue right there. And that's what I did. Then I met Kaepernick, and then I started this with my brothers. And now I teach as a law professor and do this. So you get a little insight into me as well on the show. Oh, on Hulu, Kaepernick and I produced a show about it 4 years ago about all of this called Killing County. It's a 3-part episode that I did with Colin about those cases. And so Kaepernick and I produced the show called Killing County. If you want to, if you want to watch it. Anyway, you should check out Midas Plus, MEIDASPLUS.com. That's our Substack. MidasPlus.com. Michael Cohen has his own Substack as well. You could check out his too. So you've got the Midas Plus Substack, MidasPlus.com, Cohen Substack. Subscribe to Mea Culpa Blue audio podcast. Wherever podcasts are available, Michael Cohen has great guests on his audio podcast, Mea Culpa Blue. Just search Mea Culpa. You should also check out Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, at The Michael Cohen Show. That channel is doing well now, and it's growing, and you know, just love Michael's perspectives on all the stuff that he knows from being an insider at The Michael Cohen Show. All right, folks, it's been great doing this with you, doing it solo today. We're going to have, after this, we're going to be streaming that town hall with Jim Acosta, Michael Cohen, and others. That'll be pretty cool. Thanks for watching. Shout out Midas Mighty. Shout out Brigaders.